So you're looking to quickly get up to speed on WHA stock, right?
Mm-hmm.
You probably saw they just announced their Q1 2025 results, and, well, you want the key takeaways without digging through everything.
Exactly. And that's what we're aiming for in this deep dive. We've looked at WHA's earnings report, news, some analyst views.
Right, to kind of synthesize it all.
Yeah, give you a clear picture of, how they did recently and what's potentially coming next.
Okay, so our mission basically is to pull out the crucial bits, figure out why they matter, and give you that shortcut.
We'll unpack Q1, look at their plans, see what the experts think.
Perfect. Let's dive in then. Where do we start with Q1?
Okay, let's begin with the Q1 performance itself. The standout figure really is that normalized net profit. It jumped 61% year on year.
61%, wow.
Yeah, reaching THB 2,065 million. That's not just a small increase. It suggests some real underlying momentum.
Absolutely. And it was just profit, right? The revenue side looked good too.
That's right. Normalized total revenue and their share of profit climbed as well, hitting THB 5,181 million. So things were really humming across the board.
And you mentioned momentum.
Yeah.
Was it driven by one specific part of the business, or?
Well, that's what's quite interesting. The report makes it clear that this strength wasn't just from one sector. Growth came from all 5 of WHA's business groups. It really highlights, how diversified their model is.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 groups. Maybe let's start with logistics. That often seems to be a real engine for WHA.
It certainly is. Their total warehouse space, leased and managed, hit just under 3.1 million square meters. That's 3,092,621 to be exact.
Huge footprint.
And that generated THB 533 million. That's from the rental and property management side, plus their share from the mobility business, too.
And are they adding to that? Any big new deals?
Yes, they are. They secured a major built-to-suit warehouse project. It's about 40,000 square meters.
Okay.
It's for a big retailer in building materials and home improvement. The value is over THB 1.6 billion.
That's a substantial commitment. Shows confidence.
It does, and it shows WHA can land these major clients. Also, they've been pretty smart with short-term leases.
Oh. How so?
Well, they secured about 35,000 square meters on short-term deals. Clients in electronics components, consumer goods, logistics. It lets them be agile, respond quickly to demand.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I saw a note about U.S. import tariffs actually helping demand. How does that work?
Yeah, it's interesting. The idea is that these tariffs are pushing companies to need more overflow warehouse space, store extra inventory just in case.
Hedging their bets.
Exactly. And WHA, with its existing infrastructure, is well placed to capture that demand. It's one of those unexpected opportunities from global trade shifts.
So they're benefiting there. What about expansion plans within Thailand?
Oh, definitely planning more. They're aiming for over 380,000 square meters more.
Wow.
Yeah, across several key locations like WHA Mega Logistics Center, Chonlaharn-Phichit Kampot 4 Phase 2, Theparat KOM 21 Phase 3, and Bang Natrad KOM 23. Big plans.
And they're not just staying domestic, right? Vietnam's on the map, too.
Very much so. They just launched their first logistics center over there. It's in Minh Quang Industrial Park, Hưng Yên Province, about 37,500 square meters.
Okay, first step into Vietnam logistics.
Right. And they've also signed an MOU that's a preliminary agreement with Thanh Hoa Province.
Another one.
Yeah, this one's to study developing a pretty big logistics area, around 300 rays, so clearly serious about Vietnam.
It feels like a strategic push into Southeast Asia, tapping into that whole relocation trend.
That's exactly the strategy. Diversification, new growth markets, it ties into that bigger picture.
Now, there's also something about selling assets to WHAT. Can you explain that? WHAT is their REIT?
Correct. WHA Premium Growth Freehold and Leasehold Real Estate Investment Trust.
Yeah.
Yes. They plan to sell assets or leasehold rights to WHAT.
Okay.
We're talking about 70,000 square meters roughly, valued at maybe THB 1.5 billion in 2025.
And the benefit for WHA, is it just raising cash?
It's basically unlocking capital from assets that are already mature and generating income.
Right, so they can reinvest that cash elsewhere.
Precisely. Reinvest in new developments, fuel more growth, and WHAT gets stable income-producing properties. We're already seeing it happen. The board just approved selling rights for about 32,500 square meters to WHAT for THB 808 million.
Okay, makes sense. Recycling capital. Let's shift gears then. What about the industrial development side? Land sales looks pretty strong in Q1.
Very strong. They sold 876 ray of industrial land just in the first quarter.
876 ray in 3 months.
Yes. And on top of that, they signed MOUs for another 1,311 RAE. So the pipeline looks really healthy.
That translates to revenue, I assume.
Big time. Revenue and share of profit from land and investment property sales hit THB 3,606 million. That's up over 69% compared to last year.
Wow. And again, this connects back to that investment relocation trend we mentioned. Companies setting up bases here.
Absolutely. WHA's industrial estates are clearly benefiting, and they have a backlog, too.
Oh, yeah. How much?
About 1,538 RAE that's sold but still pending ownership transfer. So that points to continued strong revenue recognition.
Any specific big deals there?
Yes, a major one. A land sale agreement with a big data center client. Around 450 RAE.
Data centers. That seems to be a recurring theme, a big growth area.
It really is, and WHA is positioning itself for it. They're apparently in talks with other data center operators, too, from the US, China, Europe.
So more potential deals there.
Potentially, and also talks with other big industrial clients like a global electronics and home appliance maker. An MOU for over 500 RAE with them.
Keep him busy.
Yeah.
What about industrial estates in Vietnam? Same story there?
Similar expansion focus. They have 2 projects under development totaling almost 2,300 RAE.
Okay.
And another project, about 1,100 RAE, waiting for its investment license. Plus, that MOU in Thanh Hoa province we mentioned, that also includes plans for a massive 4,000 RAE industrial zone.
Right, so logistics and industrial development in Thanh Hoa. They're going big there. Okay, moving on. Utilities. How's the water business doing?
Water business delivered solid results. Revenue and normalized share of profit came in at THB 747 million.
And volumes.
Total water sales and management volume was 40 million cubic meters. That's combining domestic and international.
How did that break down? Thailand versus Vietnam?
In Thailand, it was 30.9 million cubic meters. Actually, that was a slight dip year on year.
Oh, why was that?
The report points to lower demand for raw and industrial water specifically.
Okay. But any bright spots in water?
Yes, definitely. Their value-added water products, think higher quality, treated water saw sales jumped 29% year on year. That's significant, driven by new customers.
So shifting towards higher margin products there. And Vietnam water.
That grew nicely. Sales from their equity stake hit 9.1 million cubic meters. That's up 12%, mainly thanks to the Dong River project expansion kicking in.
Good growth there. Okay, next up, power. Solar seems key for WHA here.
Very much so. Solar power revenue was THB 132 million. And the normalized share of profit from the power segment overall was THB 176 million.
Are they adding more solar capacity?
Yes, they're actively signing more private PPAs. Those are agreements to sell power directly to companies.
Right.
They added 15 megawatts, MW, in Q1, bringing their total private PPA capacity to 305 MW.
And their total generation capacity, including non-solar.
Total equity-based capacity is now 980 MW. Of that, 704 MW is operational.
And how much of that operational part is renewable?
176 MW is renewable right now. But importantly, they have another 277 MW under development. And all of that is renewable.
Ah, so the future pipeline is heavily skewed towards renewables.
Exactly. Shows their commitment. Solar power sales themselves were up 44% year on year in Q1, reaching 49 gigawatt hours.
Strong growth. Any new projects coming online soon?
They have over 100 MW of projects currently under construction, expected to finish within this year.
Okay.
And they also secured 5 renewable energy projects under the government's FIT Phase 1 program. That's the feed-in tariff scheme.
Right, guaranteed prices.
Yeah. That adds another 125.4 MW of equity-based capacity, and all the contracts for those are signed. So, solid progress in power.
Okay, that covers the main 4. But there are also the digital and mobility businesses.
Right.
Still relatively small, but part of the strategy.
Absolutely. They're important for the future direction. On the digital side, WHA is focused on, becoming more tech-driven. Digital transformation is a key phrase.
Any specific examples?
Well, they're developing something called Mobilix Software Solution. It's a platform for managing EVs and batteries. They're targeting 900 vehicles using it by 2025.
Okay, supporting the EV transition.
Exactly. And they also launched an app, WhatsApp, for customer communication, aiming for 4,000 users this year.
Improving customer service through tech and mobility itself. How many EVs do they have?
In Q1, they had 360 EVs under rental service.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're pushing this Mobilix initiative as a kind of full package for logistics companies going electric.
What does that include?
It's the EV rentals, charging solutions, and that Mobilix software platform we just mentioned, a sort of built-to-suit EV ecosystem.
Right, trying to offer a complete solution. Okay, so bringing it all together, Q1 sounds very positive across the board.
Yeah, the results definitely signal strong positive momentum and a pretty robust outlook across all these different businesses.
And that huge backlog in industrial land sales, 1,538 ray, certainly backs that up.
It does. Plus those ongoing talks with data center investors and the big electronics manufacturers. They suggest demand isn't slowing down yet.
Have analysts picked up on this? What's the view from, say, the brokers?
Well, we saw that Asia Plus Securities apparently listed WHA as a top pick for Q2 this year.
Oh, interesting. Why?
They highlighted the strong fundamentals, the focus on the domestic market, which can be seen as defensive but also attractive potential from overseas, and the dividend yield.
So that's a nice bit of external validation. And it fits with what we've been saying about their expansion in Thailand and Vietnam, lining up with those broader Southeast Asia investment trends.
Exactly. Even reports looking at the wider Thai economy, like from InnovestX, while noting some pressures, still see potential. They tend to advise focusing on defensive stocks, companies with strong domestic earnings, but also those tapping into international growth. WHA seems to tick quite a few of those boxes.
Right, so let's try to wrap this up. Key takeaways from this deep dive into WHA's Q1. Strong performance pretty much everywhere, all 5 segments.
It's a big backlog in land sales, which is encouraging. Lots of expansion happening, both logistics and industrial, here and in Vietnam.
Yep, and the digital and mobility side is growing, becoming more integrated.
And the overall outlook seems positive, driven by those relocation trends, specific initiatives like data centers and EVs, and, well, solid execution.
I think that's a fair summary, which, leads to the final thought, perhaps.
Go on.
Given this strong start and these ambitious plans, what do you, listening to this, see as the main potential risks, but also the biggest opportunities for WHA for the rest of 2025 and maybe beyond? Especially with, the global economy still being a bit uncertain.
That's definitely the key question to ponder. What could derail this momentum, and where's the biggest upside? It's worth thinking about. We definitely encourage you to keep exploring, maybe look at some primary sources yourself, and form your own view. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on WHA.